Wherefore with infection should he live, and with his presence grace in piety, that sin by him advantage should achieve, and lace itself with his society. Why should false painting imitate his cheek, and steal dead seeming of his living hue? Why should poor beauty indirectly seek roses of shadow, since his rose is true? Why should he live? Now nature bankrupt is, beggared of blood, to blush through lively veins, for she hath no exchequer now but his, and proud of many lives upon his gains. Ah, him she stores to show what wealth she had in days long since, before these last so bad. Sonnet 67. This one is awesome. This is packed full of stuff. This sonnet got me thinking about beauty. I really like the commentary in this about, because essentially Shakespeare's talking about the fair youth being so beautiful that, nature and her, satchel of beauty, quantitatively speaking, was all spent on the fair youth, and so there's none left. And that in itself is an interesting idea, the idea of quantitative beauty, which I think is not right. I don't think that there is a fixed quantity of beauty in the world. And that is innately tied to the other issue, is the objective beauty versus subjective beauty. I think beauty is inherently subjective. I think that there are ways in which you can try to parse out what do human beings typically connect beauty with, in terms of like what stimuli, and breaking it down scientifically. Something that smells sweet, or something that has like the symmetry of a face is something that's pretty well characterized in terms of that connecting to a human's perception of beauty, is that if it's symmetrical, and there is some knowledge out there that demonstrates that you can quantify some of this stuff. But the disclaimer to all that is that every person's different, and every person has different tastes and finds certain things more or less beautiful than others. And what I found interesting in the concept of makeup in this, because this sonnet talks about, like why should people throw makeup on their face to try to look like this fair youth? Why should a lesser beauty try to imitate this rose, but it's just a shadow of a rose, because his rose is true. He talks about objective, truthful beauty, beauty that exists independent of an observer. And I found that interesting, because the idea of cosmetics, and it was interesting that one line in here that talks about dead seeming, because that's talking about how you're putting makeup, something that was made, that isn't alive, on your face, and that's supposed to make you look lively. It's supposed to imitate and trick someone into thinking that there's a lively beauty in front of them. The idea that beauty is a trick, that makeup is a trick, that cosmetics is a way of tricking an observer into thinking something is beautiful, is really interesting, because I think that that's a societal thing, right? Like, do X, Y, and Z things, quantitatively speaking, put on enough makeup, lose enough dress sizes, go to the gym enough to achieve X, Y, and Z quantitative expectations that society has of what's supposed to be beautiful, you're not gonna be happy, because ultimately I think beauty follows substance. When you fall in love and you care about someone genuinely, and you admire them, and there's all these things that you admire about them, their strength of will, their talent, their intelligence, how articulate they are, whatever it is, how they make you feel, do they have a good sense of humor, all these things. I think beauty follows that. Watching your significant other in their element, doing something amazing, whether, whatever they're good at, whether they act or sing or dance or play sport, whatever it is, that's beautiful. Watching something done well is beautiful. And I don't think that there's a fixed quantity of that. You know what I mean? It's interesting. It was very interesting to think about all that. It's also interesting, the idea of beauty as something subjective, and dependent on your frame of reference. This sonnet is different than most of the previous ones in terms of how it talks about the fair youth. A lot of the sonnets are lamenting to the fair youth, expressing feelings to the fair youth, either directly with you, with words like you and your and I feel this way about you, or exclaiming to the heavens about the fair youth. This is like he's talking to someone. In this sonnet, he's talking to someone else. Oh, wherefore with infection should he live? I'm talking to you now about this guy, him over here. That was interesting that the subject matter of this sonnet is dealing with beauty, which is very subjective and dependent on your frame of reference. And Shakespeare changes his frame of reference, and he's talking about things negatively about the fair youth. He's condemning the fair youth in a lot of his statements here. It's not fair. He sucked up all the beauty in the world. He's kind of condemning the fair youth. And it's interesting that he removes the perspective a little bit and changes the frame of reference when he's talking negatively about the fair youth. When he's happy, it's almost like he's saying, I will complain to my buddy about the things I don't like about the fair youth, but when I talk to the fair, but that doesn't mean I don't love him. I love him despite that. I recognize these flaws, but I still feel this way about him. Yeah, lots of meat to this sonnet. This was really fun to work on, and just some really great language. Beggared of blood to blush through lively veins. That's so like the alliterative and those round sounds, beggared of blood, it's just, it tastes good to say those words. Yeah, awesome sonnet. Sonnet 67. I really liked this one. So yeah, that was sonnet 67. I'm going to do 68 next week. Should be able to do one in the coming weeks, and then at the end of January, I think the play I was going to do, I can't remember which play I was going to do. Comedy of Errors? Maybe. I'll go back and look. But I've got kind of a rough plot of 2019 in terms of what I want to do for plays. I kind of want to go chronologically, but there's some histories that I kind of want to clump together in like the summertime. The Henry V, Prince Hal story with Henry IV, Part 1 and 2. Henry V. Richard II, I think, is the first of that. Richard II, Henry IV, 1 and 2. Henry V, and then I'd throw in the Merry Wives of Windsor at the end because that has Falstaff in it, even though it's kind of loosely linked, if any, in any way to the Henrys. But that'll be a nice transition because that one's a fluffy, funny, silly play. So yeah, I think Comedy of Errors, I think, is January, and then some of the other earlier plays leading up to some histories in like the late spring or into early summer. So. Yeah, I'm excited about keeping up with this habit in 2019, and sonnet's just getting better. I feel like we're getting to the point where he's been on the fair youth for so long, and there were kind of three major. Where's three? I mean, I can only think of two because there's the fair youth and the dark lady. I feel like there was one other major like sequence of sonnets. I'll have to go back and look, but it's been a lot of the same for a long time. So I'm excited to kind of get into a bit of a shift tonally with some of these sonnets. So yeah, that was Sonnet 67. Thanks for watching.